Tabor. We're going to be talking just a little bit through this three-gamer. As we were talking about before the show, it was interesting. It is interesting. I'm surprised that the Knicks are even that close, to be honest with you. I thought the Knicks would be a little bit more of a dog, but I really enjoyed the game last night. I thought it was a really fun basketball game, and ready to talk for this really little baseball slate. Sheets, any initial thoughts before we just jump right into it?
First of all, I find it interesting that those four teams last night were all in the same conference somehow. Like you had two completely different games. And it went exactly the way people thought also. But
right.
That Miami-Philly game was exactly what you'd expect. Like ugly game where they just body English defense their way eventually to a grinding victory. And then that Chicago game where just nobody guarded anybody for 48 minutes. It was it was just amazing to see. Anyway, so it was so fun. I was about to tell you that I really got to get out of here by 12:30, 12:35. Then I'm looking like, if it takes us longer than that to go over the three games, then we're probably doing it wrong anyway. I guess the first thing I want to ask you is about this Jack Leiter. Because he's coming up with a little bit of fanfare. I don't know if it's I don't know if he's Al Leiter or Al Leiter's son. It's possible. I don't know. I remember Al Leiter from
I'm pretty sure it is.
But I was expecting him to be a little have a little better projection against Detroit. I was expecting to have a little more ownership. Not that he's not going to be owned. There's only like 5 pitchers on the slate, or whatever. So I want to get your opinion on him. And the other guy I wanted to ask you about. I mean, we can play all these guys, but this Ryan Pepio, was he on the Dodgers last year or no?
Yeah.
He was. So from what I heard, he's really just cranked up the velocity a little bit this year, but maybe not. Again, I just remember that from somewhere. And that's the only extended conversation I wanted to ask you about those two particular guys. But there are only a couple of pitchers on the slate, and you guys know by now, without even saying so, if you've been following me for at least a year on here, you'll know what team I'm going to be targeting as far as hitting goes. But what are your opinions on this slate? What do you got? Anything related to what I just said? I mean, what do you got?
So Leiter is I just don't know how much he's going to go in this first outing, but I mean he's it's a high price tag, but the guy's like one of the top prospects in baseball. Pepio is always a guy who I liked actually, and has become he's sort of coming into himself now, and I think those guys are going to be. They won't be the two most high owned play. I think Pepio and Canning will be, but I do think that they both make sense. Not really. I on these ones I would just take the guys I feel safest with, and those guys probably fit. I mean, Pepio is going to be 75% owned probably. And I think Canning will get the rest, 50% ownership, and then you're going to probably have Maeda, then maybe Leiter. And I feel like there's definitely always a bus path with everyone, but I feel the best about Pepio, Canning, and then Leiter would probably be my three that I feel the most comfortable with.
The other thing I wanted to mention before we talk about more about this slate is that, trying to hop around here.
Yeah.
If you do builds with SaberSim on these small slates, and I've warned you guys about this before, specifically for FanDuel, but also with DraftKings, and you don't double check your work here and just throw your stuff in, you're bound to get lineups with leaving 3,000 on the table on slates like this, because what they're going to do is they're really going to try to create these stacks for you, because normally that's what you want to do, in bigger slates, but I don't think that SaberSim has really adjusted yet to that. If you want to know the truth, I think the difference between what you need as far as stacks go in small slates versus big slates. So what they do is they're prioritizing stacking over best plays, and you're getting, in my initial builds, I was getting an average of 2,900 left on the table, of the thing. So you have to use a little bit of common sense, I think, with this type of stuff. So what I did, and this is again for those of you who know me, I never do this. But I did a minimum salary of $49,000, just at least something to prevent me from having to deal with that. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. The other thing, again, just not to bury the lead here, Carlos Carrasco is just the worst. I target him every time against when he was somehow on the Mets. and now they're saying, oh, you know what, maybe going back to Cleveland will revitalize his career or something like that. Good luck. I think they're probably going to be the most popular, I imagine, but I think Boston is just going to just torch him. That's my obviously biased opinion. But other guys that you could play as far as pitching wise, I'm just getting to some of this Maeda, which is a little scary. You know what I mean? Because it's against it's a tough matchup. But they've been trying to like push these pitchers against Texas on me. And it feels like so awful to do it. But on a small slate, you could get away with saying whatever you want. So I am probably getting more Maeda than I'm probably supposed to. I guess that would be my only thing is Boston is kind of like obvious chalk and Maeda is kind of a pivot. That would be my take right now. Yeah,
I think that I don't even think Maeda and Carrasco are really that big of pivots, to be honest with you.
I didn't say Carrasco. I said
oh no, I'm just saying that, everybody else is going to be just 1,000,000% owned. I don't even think like I wouldn't even try to get creative with a pitcher on this.
Okay.
There's nobody to do it with. First of all, there's not one starter projected that I'm looking at from
less than 15%.
Yeah, and maybe even maybe a little higher. Yeah. So I just think you just would get completely different. I would think there's absolutely, I mean, look, you can stack, there's zero reason or logic behind it, in my opinion, on these kinds of slates. I don't see it working. Also, I go back to saying that early on in the season, not only have a ton of lineups that aren't stacking, there's been so little. I mean, even the stacks that are getting there, it's like 2 guys and then like 5 fantasy points combined between the other 3 guys. There's just nobody going off early in the season, hardly at all. And when they do, there's almost no power games. So I actually I look at this 3-gamer and I just think you try and pick out the favorite bats and go from there and don't even worry at all about the stacking personally. I know that you may not agree with that, but I don't think that it correlates or matters that much on the 3-gamer at all.
I also would like to, emphasize again, just specific to this slate, but also so short slates like this. I think that if you play the lottery, and you play, you want to play this correctly, play it aggressively. I think you have to have. I mean, I'm going to have probably a ton of angels. I just think you have to. I mean, Pep. It's one thing for the chalky pitcher to be, also really, really good and like tough to fade in general. You know what I mean? But it's not but only because the slate is like this is Pepio 70%. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm going to be playing just all kinds of angels in the lottery, even though they have the lowest total on the board, just because of the ownership of Pepio. In the big buy-ins. Listen, I don't necessarily think you have to fade the top projected pitcher on the slate, but in the lottery, I just think there's way too many ways that he could fail relative to how many people you have to beat in this tournament. Let's put it that way. That would be my recommendation. And I don't want to say I recommend you take the angels, but what I'm saying is that when you run your stuff and they give you like a bunch of angels, don't worry about it. You know what I mean? I would just go with it. And I agreed with you, by the way, just so you know, about stacking on a 3-game slate. We're a little different on the bigger slates, but on the 3-game slates. But one thing I also wanted to bring up to you that we always talk about, or at least I always mean to talk about with 3-game slates, is 3 games, or specifically these 3 games and these 3 pitchers, these 3 hitters, enough to play pitchers against hitters?
So I think you can probably play 1. I don't think I would go much higher, but what you could certainly do is so for example, it's going to be a bullpen game for Boston. So I don't even think you worry about you're not using the Boston pitcher anyway. That's really, I guess it's the only bullpen game. Sorry. But yeah, one I think is probably the max number I would go to, but I would have no problem playing 1. Absolutely none. Go ahead.
Another thing I'm looking at these totals. Again, these are the SaberSim totals. But you see like Texas at 4.7, Tampa at 4.6, Cleveland at 4.7, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I just keep thinking of like how these teams like tend to score their runs, and I don't want to say wasted, but let's just put it this way. I've spent a lot of money on Cleveland stacks over the years. I have 5-man them, I have 4-man them, I have 8-man them, whatever it is. And just from experience, they could get 6-7 runs and bust. You know what I mean? Like They just move the runners along. They do whatever, and yeah, I guess they could get steals, which helps, but they don't put the ball over the fence all that often. When you compare that to like, and again, I'm making this up. I don't really know the stats, but I would imagine that Texas 4-7 is much purer, than a Cleveland 4-7.
And actually, all of those are off, and Vegas is catching up on the fact that they're over projecting lines because there's been a million unders hitting. So
really?
There's actually nobody with a higher than 4.5 total today. But it's close, 4.25, whatever. But those little things matter in the long run. But yeah, there's really nobody who's supposed to score that many runs today, and the only team that's kind of supposed to is Texas.
But what I mean was more just like how the runs are going to be scored anyway. Texas,
I always try to factor that in.
Yeah, Texas, I see like Garcia hitting home runs. I see Seager hitting home runs. You know what I mean? And all the guys, honestly.
Right.
Where for whatever reason, I always have this feeling that, again, I should have the stats to back this up, but I have this feeling that Tampa is just kind of moving guys across too. Maybe that's just my memory of how they like to play or whatever it is. But so like if you were like all team totals are not created equal. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, exactly right. And I always point that out. And that's one of the issues that's been the problem with the Dodgers a little bit in the past, where people get frustrated. They don't steal bases, but they do hit a ton of home runs. And Atlanta will hit home runs and steal bases. You know what I mean? So it is important to think about that kind of stuff. I thought I would just say real quickly, like I just go through and say my favorite, bats, just both to get different, and then what I think makes the most sense at each position real quick. Catcher, I think Tice is your best. Again, like Sheets mentioned, I think you want to use some Angels on these slate where Pepe is going to be popular. Tice, I would even use in the same lineup if I wanted to. So Tice would be the cheap catcher option. Bo Naylor would be the chalky other one. At first base, Miguel Sano, the off the board option, and then the popular option that I like would be Cassis. That's pretty much what you're going to hear from me. It's going to be Angels and Red Sox, but it's going to be Angels are the low-owned ones that I would probably be going with more. Guys like Curtis Mead are a value at second base that no one seems to be playing. Also Rengifo because he's on the Angels. Colt Keith would be probably one I would use. Third base, Pablo Reyes will be the popular one. Again, you can use Sano at third base as well. And Gio Urshela would be a guy you could use at low ownership. I'm just throwing it out there because you just have to find some low-owned stuff. Zach Neto, he's batting ninth. I probably wouldn't go there for the Angels, even in the contrarian. I would play a chalky or David Hamilton from Boston or Josh Smith. And then last one, just real quickly in the outfield, guys like Mickey Moniak, who don't even look that bad today, are just not getting overlooked. He's had some early power surge, by the way. The ones I like the most would be Free. I do like Tyler Freeman as a value, but again, that's going to be chalky. Adolis and all the normal names, Evan Carter will be chalky, but I like them. Little bit lower owned. I think that Rafaela, you could play batting ninth for Boston. He's going to be one of the few low on Boston spots. So
okay, I have to stop for a second because we don't usually do this, but I want to thank you. I mean, we got like 45, 50 people in here.
Because there's no other shows
for a three game, and it was just I don't know what's going on with the tracking, but it was just 50. Like, and the 8 people just left in like 5 seconds. I don't know what's going on here, but because you guys have them in here, I'll do a build here and show you guys what we're doing here. So, and again, I'm gonna guess that what I said was correct. So, like, the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm not gonna make a minimum salary, and I just want to just prove to you and to myself what SaberSim is going to do here. And I don't say this to trash SaberSim, obviously, like I'm a big fan of theirs, but we're trying to make money. We're trying to learn. And I just want to see if I'm right about this. Because usually this is what happens. You end up, and I just put the regular projections in here. I just want to see if they're going to give me these weird, and it's kind of hard to tell without like uploading them first, but you can see like on the right side sort of what's going to happen. Now we're building a full 5,000 lineups, and so you're getting a whole bunch of combinations. Let's put it that way out of 3 games. Let me just see what we're going to get to, and then we'll do a contest sim, and I'll show you guys how to use this. Okay, so blink, blink, blink. There it is. Okay. So right off the bat, 49-1, 47,200. You know, these are like the top rated lineups, right? I'm rating them, right? So there's a couple of under 50, but that 47-2 stands out. There's a 48-1, like right off the bat. So, and there's a 47-2, and the reason why is you look at them and they look very pretty. You know what I mean? Like they have like the Texas with the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the Detroit with the 4, 5, 6, right? And so the prettier they look, the more likely they're gonna pick those to leave the money on the table. Okay, and not to leave the money on the table, and leave money on the table. So you have to I think have a little bit of, I don't want to say common sense in the right way, but I think you're gonna have to do some kind of minimum exposure, a minimum salary on these small slates. If in fact you're gonna use SaberSim correctly, is the way I'm looking for it. So let's do it again, and then
I think I wanted to touch on something Hoosier's mentioning in chat, which is what I would do. And I know Sheets is not going to do it, but I would mess with the correlation on a day like today. I don't think that there's any merit to the correlation being above 6 or being 6 or above. I would want it as low. I would probably 1 or 2 is where I would put it. I just don't think it's going to matter in the long run enough. So that would be my.
You mean in the default settings from the beginning?
Yeah, and just for what it's worth, they did default it because it's a smaller slate to 6 instead of the normal 9, right? That's usually at 9 or 10 for baseball. And it's funny because it's the opposite of what I do for basketball. I always go higher correlation because it's just one way to get different. So I'm just mentioning it as a way to get different.
So that is definitely another thing you could do. That is definitely for sure. So like right now you're saying it's 6 and you want to move it down to 2 or 3 or something.
I was just saying that another way to do something a little bit different, that would be something that Hoosier brought up in chat. That's why I was addressing.
Yeah, and the other thing you could do obviously is you start with these lineups and then you just minimize your 5-man stacks. You can do that too. Yeah. But let's just see. Well, this is weird. Oh, so I got to start over. So let's go back. We'll do 49,000 minimum. And then we'll rebuild, and then we'll see what we get. Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I've always struggled with messing with the correlation sliders. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It just seems that that's what they put the most work into. You know what I mean? But I guess you end up doing the same thing, right? If you end up getting less stacks, which by, I guess, definition will also get you less money left off the table, or less left on the table. Yeah, that's possible. Well, let's see the difference. So, we got a little bit of time. Let's see the difference between those two options. So first, I'm gonna do a min salary of 49,000 and just show you what it could look like. Okay. So if we did that, we'd be getting 100% Texas, and then as far as stack exposure, it would still be getting the 5, 3, 5, 2s, and the reason why is because, like you said, we didn't change the correlation sliders. So it's still going to prioritize the correlation, but it's just going to only leave less than 1,000 on the table. Just before we do it a different way, let's run the contest sims and see if that, normalizes things a little bit. So again, we're going to remember what we had. So when we did not leave money on the table, or excuse me, when we made the minimum salary, but we did not change the correlation sliders, we ended up with 100% Texas, etc. So let's see. First of all, let's take a look at what we do when we apply the contest sims. So as I announced, when you apply the contest sim settings, this is when you get 100% angels, right? Because Pepio's the most popular pitcher on the slate, and they'll particularly think he's that great, So it's going to get you all kinds of angels. So again, SaberSim's being very, very dogmatic today. That's the way it goes. And again, this is the United States of America, so you don't have to play anything you don't want to. So if you don't want to do this, you don't have to do this. Let's go back let's do this again, and we'll do what you said. We'll take off the minimum salary, just for the hell of it. And let's do correlation. I'm making this up, but let's just show 2, just because. And let's just see how that affects things. I remember them talking about this when they talked about how they redid the model this year. I think they said that even if you reduce the correlation, it's still going to prioritize stats, but could be wrong. But let's just see what we get here. I'm more interested in whether they leave money on the table when you do this. But let's just take a look.
What was the setting at again?
I made it 2.
2000? Yeah.
No. I made 2 correlation.
Oh no, but what was the money setting at?
I didn't do anything.
Oh, what is it? What was it at? What does it start at? 48?
No. I started at 0, 45, whatever.
Oh, 45. Yeah. Sorry, that's what I meant.
So when you do this, then and you reduce the correlation, you have a little bit more spread out as far as stats go, like 60% Texas, 60% Detroit, whatever. And then when you look at the exposure, you're still getting like 50% 5.2s and 20% 5s. So again, I don't know what the right answer is, as usual, but I think this is definitely something you could fiddle with. Who suggested this? What was his name?
Hoosier, yeah.
Hoosier. I think this is definitely something you can mess with. But the problem is, I don't know again whether it should go from 8 to 6 to 5, 6 to 4, 6 to 2.
Right.
I don't know, but in a similar way, I don't know whether I should do minimum salary 49,000 or 49.3. So we're just guessing. We're just guessing anyway.
No, right. But I do think experimenting with different ideas is a really interesting way, because one thing Hoosier was saying is that he just does $300 a month. He pays $300 a month. That shouldn't have to do anything. Sure, shouldn't have to do much. That's just not the way it is. You're going to have to make little differences. In general, you're not just spouting out exactly what their thing is, because I just don't think that's the optimal way to go. And you're then doing what everyone else is doing.
Well, I'm going to address that actually, because part of this whole SaberSim platform are these options that they give you. You know what I mean? And that's what kind of part of makes it fun. But there is no specific way to do this stuff. Like, I encourage you. I mean, you probably haven't done this, but I when I do my MMA builds, I spent like an hour just doing a video and figuring out different settings to use to come up with different types of lineups. And that's what I like about SaberSim actually, is there is no one-click lineups, because you really have to figure out what tournaments you're in, and you like to be able to put your own takes on things if you want to.
Right.
But what's interesting, Hoosier and Bobby, even though we did this with the correlation, we still have this problem of just them really still wanting to play these 46-5 stacks.
Right.
Even with the correlation at 2. I'm going to go back to, if you don't want to play this way, like play 5-man stacks, leaving 4,000 on the table, the 2 still, I think the best ways to do that is, number 1, to make a minimum salary, or 2, to do what Bobby you might want to do and just reduce your exposure to 5.2s and 5.3s, which is something else that you can do.
Right. And me, as mostly a hand builder, that's just historically that's been one of the things that I've done that's just been a way to get different. Is just look, if I'm not making that many 5-man stacks and everybody else is going all 5-man stacks and I'm doing 4.2.2s and 4.3.1s, you're just by definition getting different, which in baseball is really important to get different. Now you can definitely convince me that if you're leaving 3,500 on the table and you're going with those stacks, I actually think that's fine on this slate. I don't think I would care if I left 8,000 on the table on this slate.
Okay, so you want a hand build? All right, let's do a thing on hand build. We'll use FanDuel though.
Oh, here comes the winner.
We'll use FanDuel.
Here comes the winner. FanDuel sheets.
Here are the presumptions though. Okay, the assumptions. Assumptions are pretty egregious, but the assumptions are that my projections are good and that my ownership projection is good. Okay. So the way I hand build. And this, again, I don't care whether you use what projection you use, what ownership you use. If you're presuming that whatever you're using is good, okay, this is what I would do. These are my sheets, and I rate these, especially for FanDuel, first based on this thing's sheets value score. And it seems so primitive, but this is what I would do. I would take a look and see who the top projected guys are as far as sheets value score. And I see 2 of them. And I see that Canning and Pepio are rated significantly higher than the other 2. And then I see on the right that Canning is 1/3 the ownership of Pepiot. So I'm going to play Griffin Canning. Okay, so that's the first thing. Okay. Now again, we could. We're not talking about whether these ownerships are good or not. Okay. We're going to presume, for the sake of argument, that they're good. So let me pull up. I'm going to pull up the my lineup here. Let's see. Hold on. Should I do my actual line? Yeah, sure. What the
hell? Until we get in trouble with FanDuel.
FanDuel never had a problem.
Well, they have a problem. They just, I mean, they stated on their terms and conditions. But
all right, so we won't do the whole thing. Okay, but this is what I would do. So I would play. Who did I say? Who did I know? Canning.
Canning.
All right, so that's what I would do. So the next thing that I would do is I would pull up the stacks tool, and that's this thing. Okay. And this thing, it rates the teams by both raw points over here. So if we sort this way, or points per dollar, which is here in the middle, which I find not particularly useful. And then this modified stack thing over here, which is basically rating the stacks by Sheets value score. So what I like to do is I like to see what team shows up in both columns for openers. So first of all, I see Boston is clearly the best value. And then when I look over here, they're like the third best as far as raw points. I have Texas as the best raw points, followed by Cleveland and Boston. So it's Texas, Cleveland, Boston. And then I look over here, Boston, Tampa, Cleveland. So I have Boston and Cleveland are the one that are showing up in both. So those are the teams I want to use. And the question is, how does ownership look? Well, the good news is while they're the two highest, there's also Texas that would be getting from them. Okay. So here's the problem. Who is Canning playing? They're playing Texas, right? Angels playing Texas? No, the Angels are playing Tampa.
No, Tampa Bay, yeah.
And we don't want to use Tampa anyway, so I'm not worried too much about it. So I would play, my stacks would be Boston and Cleveland. And I would try to make a 4-4 and use the guys that are just kind of listed over here. And you don't need me to fill those in, okay? Yeah. It's extremely easy on FanDuel, always, to get who you want. Not always, but usually to get who you want.
Unless you want to play like Atlanta and the Dodgers. And
that's right. And that's how I would use my tools to hand build. And this way you have a little bit of control too. You don't also, you don't necessarily going to want to leave 4,000 on the table or something like that. So I'm not going to actually fill that in. But if you can't figure out, which guys to make a lineup work with these two, and again, I'm not saying that this is correct. I'm just saying if you want to use the tools, again, if you want to presume that they're good, then that's the way I would do handbill. Now it's a little harder DraftKings wise because it's not so easy to play 4-4s or whatever. You got to play a lot of one-offs and things like that. But that's the way I would use the tools to do hand building stuff. But with the MME stuff, I am always an optimizer guy. I'm always a SaberSim guy, and my own experience again is that every single time I've won like a big one in these lotteries, it's always a stack, a lineup which I never would have dreamed of having myself, and that's just me. So that's listen, that's the way it goes.
Yep.
Any other questions? Anything else?
No, it's a lot of cool stuff. It just there's just a lot of good comments. Good to have a lot of people in here. Did want to remind everybody to please click the like button before you get out of here. Also, we're having little site. We're doing a lot of cool things to improve the site, but we're having some site technical difficulties at different times of like the middle of the night and early in the morning because that's when we're trying to get the work done, and it's going to occasionally have a little glitch. So sorry about that. If there's a problem, clear your cache and it should be fine. But we really apologize if there's anybody who was inconvenienced. I know early this morning it got to a number of you, so I wanted to just address that really quick. That was pretty much just my own little speech I had to get out there that I should have said probably early on. And Hoosier saying he's debating locking Trout in every lineup. I would just say from history and tonight, yeah, you're playing a 3-game slate. Absolutely, you can lock in a hitter. I don't know. Well,
hold on. Let's listen. He's going to say that. What do you think my question is going to be to you, Hoosier?
What? How many lineups you play?
How many lineups?
Yeah.
First of all, how many lineups? What tournament? And things like that. I mean, you're playing one lineup, sure, luck and trap. You're playing 150 in the lottery. I'm not saying no, but it's just a different question.
Right. Right. No, and what I would just say in general with baseball is don't ever, if you're ever playing like more than 20 lineups, don't ever have one player that's not a pitcher in every lineup. That's, to me, it shows a huge mistake. I don't care if you're the best hitter ever on the hottest streak of all time. There's no way that you could tell me that you could be positive equity for a popular player when you're just playing 100% of a chalky guy in baseball. It just, I'll never find a hitter that I think is there. 20 max is probably right on the cusp of where I wouldn't do it, but I think that it's totally it's okay because Trout is the best player on the best hitter on the slate, obviously, or second best hitter on the slate behind Corey Seager. But that's sort of a half joke. Anyway, yeah, I have no issue with it. I just think in general, you want to think in baseball, you really want to try to have less. You don't want to be like, it's sort of like golf, the way you should treat your hitters. You don't hardly ever end up, other than Scotty Scheffler, with like you would never end up with hardly 100% of anyone. Just very high variance.
Yeah. Now you mentioned, just to be specific, I mean, you mentioned you wouldn't play 100% of like a chalk would you do that of a non-chalky player, or even just because it's baseball, you wouldn't? Never
a hitter, always only a pitcher ever. And unless I was playing 10 or less lineups, then I would consider doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So listen, if you guys want to watch, I'm doing the same thing with FanDuel, with SaberSim. And again, it's even more egregious with FanDuel as far as like the money left on the table. So this is exactly what I'm building. What's cool is that I don't even know what I'm going to have either, so it doesn't really matter. But I'm going to leave again 1,000 max on the table. And you don't really need to build 5,000 lineups when you're playing, only a 3-game slate. And you could that could be a mistake, because once you start getting into the filtering, if you start to like ask for too many, concessions and too many rules and things like that after the fact, you might end up getting like that 34,000th lineup or something. You know what I mean? Like that 4,000th lineup, which you really don't want. So you could argue actually that you shouldn't build more than, again, I'm making it up, but about like 2,000 lineups, I guess, even in a 3-game slate. So if you guys want to hang out here, we'll see the results of this, and then we'll get going. So tonight what is there, like a 2-gamer or something? Is there anything?
It's like a weird. They all looked like the. Let's see. I'll find out here. I mean, there's the 2-gamer at 4:40. What is that? It's the night slate tonight. Is that tonight or tomorrow? That's tonight. Yeah, there's a 2-gamer at 7:40 Eastern, I guess.
Who's playing?
I don't even know. I'm trying to find out here. Miami, Chicago, which has rain issues, and Arizona, San Francisco.
So it could be a showdown after all
that. It could. I mean, I don't know about how bad the rain issues. I didn't bother looking, but it looks like it's raining in Chicago until about 11 p.m. local time.
If you guys are here and you're just checking us out, like from YouTube or whatever, I was gonna say, give some opinions on what you want to see, but better yet, like join the Discord channel, at least.
Yep.
So that if there's something that you want to see differently, even in the YouTube videos, I don't go to the comment section YouTube all too much.
Yeah, I'll go and check it, but I did want to say, like, just for what it's worth, we're charging almost the exact same price as SaberSim. We've got SaberSim's projections, Sheets' projections, Goldie's projections, any of my content, all of Goldie's content. I'm sorry, all of Brody's content, as well as Brandon Cruz for NASCAR, who's just awesome. And just wanted to tell you guys, maybe check it out. We have some pretty good package deals that are offered that we don't feel like any. They're actually different ones than are being offered out in the rest of the industry. So I think you guys should check it out. I think it's a pretty good deal.
And I'll tell you what else we're gonna do again. I keep so many freaking ideas I have, it's on all the different things I have going on, and I want to do those subscriber contests again. I want to do that.
Yeah.
and give like a coaching session to the winner or something like that. Or
and we were talking, and me and Brandon have been talking about doing more coaching sessions this year, and like doing like having like I said I can commit to starting. Well, I can commit, I think, unless something crazy happens. But I want to start on like Wednesdays to try to, we used to do the sweat shows, but maybe to do a coaching session that leads into a sweat show or something.
That's interesting.
Maybe once a month to start it off or something, and then just see how people like it.
By the way, I am out. I'm out starting tomorrow for the weekend.
Okay. Any fun trips?
Going to coach in Pittsburgh. I'm going to be.
Cool.
Yeah, my I coach still, like I do like all the analytics. I do I do some of the practices, but I get out to like 1 or 2 tournaments a year, and the Pittsburgh one I'm going to.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and I'll be back, and it's I'll be able to probably get to some of the NASCAR projections. There's no MMA this weekend. But as far as baseball and basketball, you guys are probably going to be, I don't say on your own, but you have SaberSim, like you said, you have Goldie's projections, you have all kinds of other stuff. But that'll do it. I guess I'm not going to be there at 6 tonight.
Nothing to be there for.
But we'll be there. At 6 o'clock. We'll be sweating the end of this. No, this is going to end at 4:30. So hopefully somebody does well in this again, and I'm sure I'll pop in at some point over the weekend. Good luck at everybody's golf.
Oh yeah, good luck in golf. Your Ekro got off to a hot start today.
Yeah, you're gonna have to be like 40 under to win this thing.
Oh, I know. Well, maybe. I mean, yeah, it's weird. All the good players aren't playing well.
Yeah. All right. Have
a good one, buddy. Good luck, everybody. And Sheets, if you ever have a few minutes later, just hit me up.
Well, let's give me a minute now. Here, it's